Today, I'm going to share with you 10 gaps that are likely leaking profit out of your coaching business, whether you have an existing one or you're looking to start one, transitioning online, etc. So without any further ado, if we don't figure these out, what's going to happen is you're going to feel like you're working very, very hard for little to show for your efforts. It's almost like if you've ever been in a canoe and you're paddling, just imagine that, but with several holes in the canoe filling up with water. You're going to be paddling really, really hard and at the same time trying to get the water out of the boat just in order to stay afloat and move forward. That's what it's going to feel like if you don't plug these leaks in your business. That's the most important reason you want to pay attention to this. So you're going to want to grab a pen and paper. Let's dive into this. So number one is, I'm going to just kind of phrase these questions. Do you specialize, I'm just looking at my notes here, do you specialize in one specific area? And are you seen as the go-to expert in your marketplace for that specialty? So basically, are you a specialist with your coaching business or are you a generalist? If you're a generalist, you're naturally going to be losing a lot of money because people are not going to work with you, right? Most people don't want to work with a generalist unless they already have a pre-established relationship with you, or you're simply getting word of mouth clients, which is what typically happens if you have a generalist type of practice or business. So if you specialize, you're naturally able to command premium prices. Everyone wants to work with a specialist because they see that as the specific solution for their specific problem. So therefore, if you're a generalist, you're going to have a tougher time attracting clients. You won't be able to achieve or charge premium prices. And therefore, both of those factors are going to complicate, well, one, they'll decrease the profitability of your business. And secondly, they'll actually complicate your business dramatically because if you're trying to help everyone, it's very hard to scale that. So that's the first profit leak in the business, is trying to help everyone instead of being a specialist in one specific area. The second profit leak is, do you have a clearly defined, unique methodology that differentiates you from everyone else? And do you incorporate that in your marketing? So what do I mean by that? So essentially, you do what you do, and you may or may not recognize that you have a special recipe for how you create results for your clients. So like in our case at Healthpreneur, one of the unique methodologies that we have several, but one of them is our perfect client pipeline. If you watch any of my other videos on this channel, I've talked about it like 100 times. So that's that 4-step acquisition system. We build and install it into your business if you were to work with us in our higher level coaching program. And that is a simple way of attracting your kind of dream clients, if you will, largely on autopilot in a way that's more consistent and predictable. So why that's helpful to have in your business is because everyone wants the man with the plan. If you show up at a jungle or a park, there's a trail or whatever, and there's a bunch of people standing around and there's no guide, there's no map, there's nothing, like, what are you going to do? You're going to just like walk into the jungle and hope for the best? Or would you feel a lot more confident with the person, let's say a guide was there and they're like, yeah, like I've done this 100 times. I have this map that shows you how to get through this. Would you be more confident potentially moving forward with them? Yeah, you would. Because they have a roadmap, they have a plan, they know exactly how to get from where they are to where you want to be. So it's the same thing with your business, is if you simply tell people, yeah, like, you know, I help you get in better shape and have more energy. And like, it's just so vague. It's not concrete. And the cool thing is that you don't have to change anything you're doing on delivery. All you have to do is put better wrapping paper around what it is that you do. So the hard thing about this is that it's hard to see the outside of the label when you're inside the bottle. And so right now you are inside your bottle. I'm inside my bottle. Everyone's inside their bottle. And unless you know how to put these special goggles on called marketing, it's very hard to extract what you do in such a way that is very desirable for other people. And one of the biggest challenges that people come to us with is like, hey, I'm amazing at what I do. No one understands it. I don't understand why I can't enroll clients. I don't understand why I can't charge more. And it's like, hey, listen, like you're amazing, but that's irrelevant. You have to learn how to create bacon wrapped broccoli. Said otherwise, you have the broccoli and no one wants the broccoli. What they want is the bacon. And you have to be able to wrap what you do in bacon so people are like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'll give you an example. So my previous company, which was a health business online, we sold a variety of different products. And one of them was called the Amazing Abs Solution. And so the Amazing Abs Solution was a no sit-up solution to getting a strong, rock-solid core. And so the proprietary process, which is what we call this unique methodology, was a 3-phase system called build, sculpt, burn. So I basically mapped out, all right, so here's how this program's different. We have a 3-phase approach called build, sculpt, burn. The first 4 weeks is about building the foundation. Second week is once we have the foundation, we sculpt a little bit more definition and tone. And the final 4 weeks is about burning excess belly fat so you can actually see your hard work. So now there's a plan here. There's some type of there's a rhyme or reason to what we're doing. And just that alone separates that from a lot of other stuff, right? So if you came across someone's workout program and they did core workouts, maybe we did the exact same exercises. Who knows? But the very fact that this was laid out in such a linear map-like fashion instills and invokes more confidence in the potential buyer. And that's why it's really important. It's one of the most important ways to stand out in a very competitive marketplace, which all of us are competing in, right? Doesn't matter if they're weight loss, skin issues, IBS, they're all very, very saturated and competitive markets. So having this way to differentiate yourself is really, really important. Okay, number 3 is, do you have a predictable and controllable way to generate as many leads and clients as you want beyond word of mouth? Now, this is a little bit of a trick question, to be honest, because most people are going to say no to this. So here's why this matters. Because if you don't have a predictable way to bring clients in, then you don't have a predictable way to generate revenue in your business. If you can't generate revenue in your business predictably, then naturally you're not going to have as much profit. So understand that in order to impact the bottom line, profitability of your business, you have to drive revenue, right? Obviously we can cut expenses, but the biggest determinant of profitability is how much money you make. At the end of the day, some people are so focused on conservation. You can't save your way to a successful business. What are you going to do? Okay, so as an example, I'm going to segue this into the next one as well. Okay. So is your LTV to CAC ratio at least 5-1? You might be saying, okay, what the hell are you talking about? LTV is lifetime value. CAC is cost to acquire a client. The ratio of LTV to CAC ideally is 5-1. So this is going to tie in with what we just talked about, is do you have a predictable, controllable way to get clients? Okay, so here's why this matters. If you charge $5,000 for your coaching program and it costs you $1,000 to enroll one client, let's say that you actually have a controllable, predictable system that you have numbers, if you're running ads, for instance, that's a 5-1 LTV to CAC ratio, right? The lifetime value, I'm not in this case, I'm not considering the full lifetime value. I'm just talking about the contract value of one client in this example, but it might be more if the client renews with you, et cetera. But for now, let's just keep it simple. They pay you $5,000, you pay $1,000 to acquire them, right? That's 5-1. So here's why it's very, very hard to save your way to a successful, profitable business. So let's say that you're running ads like any smart health practitioner would do with the right type of guidance and system, and you're paying $1,000 to enroll a client, right? So you're spending $1,000, you're getting leads coming in, a percentage of them are booking calls, you're having some of those calls, and 1 or 2 of them, whatever, say yes. So one says yes, you pay $1,000 when it's all said and done. Okay, so to reduce the cost to acquire clients, you're not going to go from $1,000 to $100. That's never going to happen. Again, it depends on what the existing numbers look like, but I would say at most, you would probably potentially, if you optimize the shit out of your funnel and your marketing, you can maybe get it from 1,000 down to 500 or 600. Okay, that's if you're like a ninja. So if your price is $5,000 and you go from 5,000 and it's 1,000 to acquire that client to 1,000 down to 500, which, by the way, is very hard. And I'm talking about maniacally focused on messaging, optimizing every single part of your marketing and sales efficiency process. It's a lot of work. But let's say you got it down to 500. So now your LTV to CAC ratio in this context, remember, in this particular context, LTV is the same as contract value. I'm not considering long-time, lifetime value here, just for the sake of this. Just run the same page. You make 5,000. You paid 500 to attract the client or acquire the client. So now your LTV to CAC ratio is 10-1. So that means you've made 10 times as many dollars as you spent to acquire one client. You've essentially doubled the profitability of your business by reducing the cost to acquire a client. But here's the problem. That's as far as you're going to take it with cost to acquire a client. And here's the other dilemma, is that if you're running ads, which again, any smart, experienced health practitioner who cares about saving time and having more sustainability in their business will do, advertising costs are only going up. They're never going down. So what happens is this reducing cost to acquire a client, like saving, cutting expenses, cutting your way down, will only take you so far. And it's very hard work. Do you know what's a lot easier? Is increasing your price. Or what happens when your client finishes the initial coaching program with you? Do you have what we call a scale offer, a longer term commitment with that client where now they paid you $5,000 for 3 months? Maybe they pay you $10,000 for an additional 12 months. All of a sudden now, your lifetime value is not $5,000, it's $15,000, right? If we look at the lifetime of that client, for the same $1,000 ad spend or a cost to acquire a client, now we're looking at a 15 to 1 LTV to CAC ratio. Or if you optimize the shit out of your stuff anyways, and you got the CAC down to 500, then it would be 15 to 500, which is a 30 to 1 LTV to CAC ratio. So again, this is a little bit more advanced, but I'm sharing this with you because maybe you've heard of this, maybe you have not, but it's one of the most important numbers to look at in your business because these are the two driving forces. How much are people paying you? How much are you paying to acquire them? You might say to yourself, Yuri, this all sounds great, but I get all my clients through word of mouth. Okay, cool. So let's say that your cost to acquire a client is 0. When someone tells me they don't pay anything to acquire a client, the first thing I know is they have no control over their future. And this leads me back to what I just said is like earlier, is like number 3 is, do you have a predictable, controllable way to generate as many leads and clients as you want without relying on word of mouth? Well, yeah, like I post content and some people like reach out. Great. Is that predictable? No, it's not. It's not predictable. And listen, I understand when you're just starting out and you're brand new, you have no experience, you got to do what you got to do. Okay. It is what it is. But if you're an experienced practitioner and you want to kind of cut to the chase and grow faster, you need a predictable way to do this. Because if you post content, which by the way, I believe is the best way to build your brand for the long term, but it's not going to get you anywhere in the short term, right? You have to really put in a lot of hard work and consistent effort, and it takes time. Okay. Now we do have a program called the Online Authority Accelerator that focuses solely on that. And it has its place. It's for those who don't have a lot of experience and who are maybe a little bit new to working with clients. And listen, you're not going to run ads if you've never worked with a paying client. You're not going to run ads if you're not the best at what you do, because you're going to lose your shirt very quickly if you do that. So I just want to provide a bit of context there. But it's still not predictable. It's still not controllable. You can post every day, but you don't have the same level of predictability as if you ran ads. So if you run ads and you spend $100 a day and you pay $5 a lead and then you pay $125 a call booked, you can see those numbers and track them like a hawk. So you're like, okay, well, what if I spend $200 or $500 or $1,000 a day? The numbers literally just follow suit, more or less. That's predictable. That's controllable. So if you pay nothing to acquire a client, here's another way of thinking about this. You are paying, you're just not paying with dollars. You're paying with your time and you're paying with frustration. You're paying with hope. And that's a very weird place to live as a business owner. If you'd like to forecast a couple months down the road, what's the game plan? Well, I hope that doctor is going to refer some people to me. I really hope. That's not a game plan, right? Hope is not a strategy. I mean, listen, word of mouth is nice. It's great to have, but you have to have an engine in your business that is generating leads and clients literally on autopilot. And again, in our case, we call that a perfect client pipeline. We install that into all of our clients' businesses. And that's the vehicle. Okay, so the 5th profit leak is, do you have a compelling free offer? So lead magnet, webinar, etc., that is adding in these 50 new leads onto your email list every single day. This is a really simple question. It's either happening or it's not happening. So you can look in your CRM if you have a CRM. If you don't know what a CRM is, well, please subscribe to the channel and watch other videos to increase your business acumen with the online stuff. So if you're not generating 50 leads a day predictably, well, then you don't have a compelling free offer, like a lead magnet, like a checklist, PDF, whatever, or in our case, like a webinar. And why that's important is because now, again, just like the previous point, is you don't have a consistent system of bringing people into your world. So you're hoping that somehow people fall into your lap. And I just want to be clear, like I'm talking about leads on an email list. I'm not talking about followers. Followers are great. Like, listen, like, you could consider social media leads or social media followers who engage with you in the DMs as leads. They've expressed interest. They've raised their hand. They've had a conversation with you, perhaps. Cool. The challenge though, is you got to get these people onto your email list because you don't own Instagram. If your Instagram account gets shut down, you're screwed. Okay. So a couple of years ago, we actually got, I don't know, whatever, shut down, temporarily paused, whatever, on Instagram for 3 months. And at the time, I think we had maybe 50,000 followers. But here's the thing, is it didn't impact our business in the slightest. And that's a really nice place to be because we had 50,000 people there and probably a good percentage of them were on our email list. So you'll always have your email list. And that's something you'll always have. You can download the CSV, you can keep it on your computer. Obviously, like you own your email list. And that's really important to constantly be building that because that's the number one asset in your business over time. So in your case, like, you could say, well, what happens if your Facebook ad account got shut down? Well, I've had 6 accounts shut down in my 20 years and it sucks 100%. But I've always found a way to get things back up. And listen, no matter what happens in your business, there's always a way to figure things out. But you want to think about, like, what can I control, right? A lot of business, like a lot of the conversation is around control. Like, what do you have control over? What do you have predictability over? And unfortunately, when you play on these other platforms, although they're phenomenal, listen, I mean, worst case scenario, push comes to shove and you get shadow banned or you get banned or you get shut down. I'm not saying that's even remotely going to happen, to be honest. Like, it's so rare for that to happen in the first place. I wouldn't even worry about it. But the key is that there's a very big difference between a social follower and an email follower, right? An email subscriber. So you want to get people onto your email list. A simple way to do that is from your link in bio on Instagram is you just link people to an opt-in page in exchange for your free offer, your webinar, your lead magnet. If you go to our Instagram page, you'll see an example of this, okay? My goal is I want to get people off of Instagram onto our email list as much as humanly possible, all the time, okay? All the time. Because we send out a daily email and we know that eventually the people on our email list are going to consume our stuff. Most people consume emails much more diligently than just scrolling through social posts, especially from people they want to hear from, okay? So if you don't have a free offer, webinar, lead magnet, et cetera, that's collecting at least 50 emails a day, you're leaving a lot of profit on the table. Okay, number 6 is, are you currently generating at least 20 discovery calls per month with qualified leads? The answer to this question, again, is probably going to be no for many people. So let me break this down. So if you have 20 calls booked per month, that's like 1 call a day, not even 1 call a day. So let's say that you have 20 calls, 15 of them show up, depending on the source. If it's organic, you'll have higher. If it's ads, it'll be lower. But let's just say it's 15 show up. And let's say that you enroll 5 out of 15 people you speak with, right? You charge $5,000, you have 5 people enrolled, that's $25,000. Okay, so let's just play with those numbers for a second. Let's say that you have 5 discovery calls booked per month. And again, you have 1 out of those 5 who enrolls with you. You make $5,000 per month. So you've got a very, very different business based on lead flow. So it's all coming together here. Hopefully it's all the same stuff. If you don't have a predictable way to bring new leads in, then you can't book enough discovery calls. If you can't book enough discovery calls, well, then you're not going to enroll many clients, because in a coaching world, coaching relationship, you're enrolling clients on a conversation, right? Whether that's on the phone or on Zoom. And if you don't have any calls, well, you're not growing your business. So the number of calls booked is the number one leading indicator in your business. So if you look at revenue and your P&L, that's awesome. But those are like after the fact. And so you might have a really, really good month on your P&L, but I was actually talking with one of my team members about this. We're like, hey, we had a really weird month and we still did really well on the P&L. And I said, yes, but if the leading indicators that were last month continue, that P&L is going to change in 2 to 3 months. So I don't overly fixate on my P&L. I look exactly at what are the daily leading indicators. In this type of business, it's the number of calls booked most often. And then obviously quality and show rate are going to be important. But if you're not booking any calls, you can't grow your business. So if you're not generating at least 20 calls per month, that's a major, major opportunity to improve on. And again, what does that come down to? It comes down to having the right system, the right offer, the right marketing, the right visibility. There's a number of factors of why you might not be booking that many calls, but that's really like, if we were to work together, I would want to see no less than 20 calls booked in our calendar per month, because otherwise it's just like a little side hobby that's not very serious. Okay, we're 7. Show rates on the discovery calls, is it above 70%? So let's say you're booking those 20 calls. Is the show rate above 70%? If not, it's a big room. I mean, again, a big area of opportunity for growth. So please keep in mind the source of leads and how much friction they have to jump through is going to determine the show rate. From advertising, your show up rate is going to be atrocious compared to organic. Why? Because people coming from ads are cold prospects. They don't know, like, and trust you. And who knows, they might be flaky and whatever. So if you're in the neighborhood of like 50 to 70% from cold ads, don't be surprised by that. But it doesn't mean you can't do things to improve the show up rate. So there's very specific tactical things that we would do with our clients to help them improve that show up rate. In fact, one of our clients, Abram, he took his show up rate from 30% to 90% with just one thing I advised him in our HBA program, literally within the first 3 days of him starting. And so he does about 100K per month-ish in cash collected. And that's a huge needle mover, right? So 70% or higher is ideal. From organic, you will get higher show up rates because people are already more, they're more vested into you, if you will. They have more of a relationship, at least even from a distance, even if they've never met you. They follow you on social, so there's more affinity to you and your brand. So 70% or higher is what we're shooting for these show up rates, because if you book 100 calls and the show up rate is shit, what's the point? I'll give you an example. So we actually ran a test a couple weeks ago. We spent $55,000 in ads. We had 101 calls booked. The show up rate was 22% and the close rate was 3.7%. Those numbers are absolutely horrifying. Naturally, we shut that off. Now, we spend a lot of money testing things so that our clients never have to lose their money doing stuff like that. So actually, one of our clients said, hey, I saw your ads around like, this and going to that. Like, do you recommend we do that? I'm like, please don't do it. Let us spend our money and learn the lessons so that you don't have to. And I like, listen, if we ever recommend something to you, it's because we have battle tested it. We have spent a tremendous amount of money to make sure this actually makes sense. So in that case, it didn't make sense. The show up rate was horrible. The close rate was horrible. And generally, it's because there's less friction. The whole, like, a big piece of our philosophy at Healthpreneur is if you want the most, make it easy. If you want the best, make it hard. So when people say, well, Yuri, like, the perfect client pipeline or the webinar, it sounds cool, but like, people don't have time these days to watch a webinar. I'm like, no, I agree with you. You're right. Please keep doing what you're doing. I'm not talking to people. I'm talking to people who want to change. Does someone have 45 minutes to 60 minutes to watch something that's going to change their life? Probably. Yeah, well, they're busy. Are they? I would love to know how much television they've watched this past week. Just ask them that. So I don't buy the excuse that people who are super busy and they're just going to watch like a quick thing. And then like I'm telling you, like even in the business coaching space, I continue to see this. People who are busy and buyers, they don't want information. They just want the solution. And I'm like, I've not seen this in 20 years. And I've tested the fucking shit out of this with more than $1 million of my own money, because I'm like, let me make sure that I'm not so dogmatically fixated on this concept of getting people to jump through hoops. And let's go make it easy for them to book calls and like get right to the solution. And it's horrifying. The numbers are absolutely horrifying. And unless I'm really missing something, I have not seen that work. So I don't care how advanced somebody is. I don't care how busy they are. You will jump through hoops if you want the solution. If what you're dealing with is bad enough, you will find a way to make time to watch whatever you have to watch or do whatever you have to do. It's never a matter of successful people are busy, therefore they don't have to go through this stuff. It all comes down to how badly you want something. I talk about this in sales, but if someone's like 5,000 is a lot of money, it's like, okay, fair enough. If your kids were kidnapped and you had to come up with a $5,000 ransom, would you? And everyone would say, yeah. So then it's like, well, how's this different? Well, now it's just a matter of value. Either you don't want what you say you want, or you don't believe I can help you get where you want to go. Which one is it? Because that's all we're talking about. So I'm not someone who watches anything, right? I don't really watch a lot of, I watch soccer. That's pretty much all I watch. And then I watch business education. I consume so much information, podcasts, videos, learning. It's got to be in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 hours a week. So for me to say like, I don't have time to watch a webinar, that's true unless the webinar or the presentation or the video solves a very specific problem that I need to solve. Got it? Okay, number 8 is your close rate for these discovery calls at least 30% or higher? So if you're doing 100 calls and 30% of people say yes, that's 30 clients enrolled. Okay, so if 5 people out of 100, like in the example I gave you, 3.7% out of 101, horrifying. So 30% is the baseline. And the reason I suggest this is because, listen, I've been at this for a very, very long time. I've worked with thousands of clients and I know what the numbers shake out to look like. So if you're anything under 30%, you might, depending on your price point, you might be, 2 to 3x profitable, perhaps. But if you're 30% or higher, and assuming the numbers early, mid, top of funnel or better in terms of what we would be looking for, your ROAS, your return on ad spend, or your return on marketing, if you will, is going to be in the neighborhood of like 5 to 10 to 1. So when I say 30%, that's just the baseline. If you're not 30%, then it's a skill issue. Most often it's a skill issue. It could be a lead quality issue as well. But either way, it's a marketing and sales efficiency problem, and both of them have to be solved. Because if they're not, you're going to pay too much for a lead, you're going to be wasting people on the phone, and all of that is going to kill your margins. Because what's going to happen is you might be booking a lot of calls, but if you can't close them, then you can't collect cash to then pay for your ad spend or your marketing. So therefore, you have to turn that down. Call volume goes down, give no more calls to even close people. You don't collect cash. And then what do? You just like sit back and hope again. So I believe in a coaching business, most often the real constraints, and again, the constraint will move as the business grows, but very often one of the biggest constraints is close rate. Because if your close rate was 100%, then you would have no issue like booking calls. Because if you knew you could close 100% of people you spoke with, then you would be able to spend way more for any call that was booked. But you have to drop the cost per call booked in proportion to your close rates. So if your close rate is really low, you don't have the cash or the risk tolerance, if you will, to spend a lot of money to get people booking calls. Because it's like, shit, like if I book 10 calls for $200 each, that's $2,000. And if I sell something for $5 and my close rate is like 0, I'm not enrolling anyone. But if you were to book 10 calls, right, and all of them showed and all of them enrolled, that's $50,000 on a $5,000 coaching program, okay? If you spend $2,000 to make $50,000, you would do that forever. But it also gives you the luxury of outspending everyone in your marketplace, because you could say, well, I could spend way more than a couple $100 for a call. I could spend $700 for a call. I could outbid everyone in the marketplace. So therefore, my ads will crush forever because I can make $50,000 because I close everyone. Utopian scenario. Unicorns and rainbows, right? But back here on planet Earth, the lower your close rate goes, the more efficient your marketing needs to be to bring more people onto your calendar at a lower cost for everything, because you don't have as much wiggle room. So close rate's really important. Also from an energy perspective, you're just going to feel like way better if you talk to 10 people and enroll 4 as opposed to 10 people and enroll 1. You're basically making more money for the same time you're putting in. And so close rate is a skill. Sales is a skill. Some people talk about it as a numbers game. Well, if you have 100 calls and enroll 40 people, that's a $200,000 business at a $5K price point. If you have 100 calls and enroll 5 people, that's a $25,000 business. What's the difference? They're all the same numbers. The difference is, can you have the conversation on the phone or on Zoom with people to move them across the line in a way that's not pushy or salesy? And it's a really, really important skill. I spend 100% of my coaching calls with my clients on this skill. It's that important in a coaching business, right? How much to charge, how to deliver your coaching, all that stuff is secondary. It's easy. But getting better at sales is the single hardest skill that you have to build. And it's the most rewarding skill, because it's the single biggest needle mover. Again, if you want more profit in your business, you pay for 10 calls, okay? You enroll 1 person. Scenario 1, you pay for 10 calls, I'm saying like running ads, etc., and you enroll 4 people. You have 4x your business. You have 4 times the amount of profit just because you're better on the phone with prospects, period. Okay, last two. So these are more delivery. Can your clients achieve their desired results without relying on you for everything? If the answer is no, because you're relying on one-on-one, well, then you can't scale your business. You're going to run into what I call the capacity ceiling, which is essentially where the amount of time you have limits how much money you can make. So if you can only work 8 hours a day, because that's energetically how much time you can put in, and every single one of those hours was working with a client, that's it. Like you can't even use sales calls on top of that. It's 8 hours of delivery, one-on-one, every single day. Whatever money you make in exchange for that is exactly how much money you can make, period, end of story. So you actually might be fairly profitable in that model, maybe, if you don't acquire clients through ads. But if you can only work with 20 clients at any given time, because everyone's one-on-one, with everything else in your business, right? Sales calls, the marketing, admin, the whole bit. If you can only take on 20 clients at any given time, and they pay you $5,000 each over whatever course that time is, that's $100,000 for the cohort of 20. But if you can improve the delivery model without compromising the quality of results your clients get, to work with 100 people at the same time instead of 20, you 5x your business without any more time on your end. I'm not talking about going and working 5 times as much doing one-on-one. I'm not saying that at all. In fact, we help our clients move from one-on-one, if they want to, into more of a leverage group coaching environment, because now leverage allows you to work with 1 to 5 instead of 1 to 1. So you 5x your leverage, which essentially means you 5x your profit. Now, the key here to understand is I'm not saying you compromise the results of your clients. You don't in the slightest. You actually provide better care and better results for your clients because they're in a community. You think of different ways to better support them more than just with your time. And it's amazing what happens with your clients' results. Now, again, you just have to be open-minded to that. And if you're not, that's totally fine. You can still do one-on-one for, forever. And you'll always have that capacity ceiling that will be the limiting factor in your growth and your profitability. So you might be profitable one-on-one, but you'll be time poor. And at the end of the day, I think a lot of us simply want to have more time. So we buy time back with profit. Like if you make a lot of profit, you can hire people, you can build better systems to then buy back your time so you can do what it is you want in and out of the business. Number 10, the 10th profit leak here is your monthly churn less than 3%? So churn is the percentage of clients you lose on a monthly basis. So let's say at the start of the month, you have 100 active clients. At the end of the month, acquisition of new clients aside, at the end of the month, you have 90 clients. You lost 10. That's a 10% churn. If that continues without any new clients coming in, it'll take you 7.2 months to lose all of your clients. So rule of 72, you take 72 divided by the percentage, and that's basically the half-life of the thing. So if it's a 10% churn, it'll take you 7.2 months to go to 0 from where you are. If your churn is 3%, 72 divided by 3 is 24. So if you acquired no new clients, it would take you 24 months to lose all those clients. So essentially, lower churn gives you a much longer runway. It reduces the stress on marketing because you don't have to acquire clients like a maniac. And it means you're actually producing better results for your clients, because if they're getting great results, why would they not stay? Why would they not renew? Why would they not continue? So monthly churn, especially as the size of your business grows, is the most important number to look at. If you have 1,000 clients at a 10% churn, that's 100 clients you're losing every month. Good luck enrolling 100 new clients every month. Have fun with that. That's not a stress-less type of business. But if your monthly churn is 3%, you're losing 30 clients on 1,000 clients, okay? That's 30 still a lot, but it's not 100. So just understand, like, even though the number seems small, the more the volume of clients is, the absolute number becomes very big. So if you have 1,000 clients and you lose 3%, that's 30. If you have 10,000 clients, you lose 3%, that's 300, or whatever the number is. Just understand that it's a lot easier to keep clients than to get new clients. And if you're always having to chase to get new clients, you got to really think about fixing the 3% churn. And that also will help your LTV to CAC ratio. The more clients you keep, the longer the lifetime value is, the higher the LTV goes. And that ratio starts to widen, maybe from 5 to 1 to 7 to 1 to 10 to 1, whatever, you're more profitable. Okay? So those are 10 profit leaks, 10 of actually 20 profit leaks we've recognized in health businesses. If you want the full scorecard and checklist, you can book in a profit accelerator call with our team. If you're an experienced health practitioner and you're having a tough time getting beyond 20K per month exclusively, if that's you, online exclusively, there's probably a link in the description below. you can book in a Profit Accelerator call. We can look at some of these leaks in your business, talk about how we might be able to help you solve those. And if you want our help to install some of these systems and get our support along the way, then we can talk about what that would look like in that call. So again, the link for that is below. You'll get the full checklist and scorecard when you show up, and I think it'll help you out. Either way, hope you've enjoyed this. Remember to subscribe to the channel. We've got hundreds of other videos to help you build a thriving online health business, and I'll see you in the next one. I've conducted thousands of sales calls. I've hired, trained, and leveled up dozens of sales reps, and I've coached thousands of health practitioners to better their selling skills. And today I'm gonna share with you the 3-step AIR framework to turn I need to think about it into a yes.